All right, in this video, we are going to revisit the Dr. Craig Wright appeal grounds and the Ager-Hansen interference that I've talked so much about. So stay tuned to the end. I'm going to break it all down and stuff you never heard before. So I'm on a space today. I'm talking with which you'll see a video. I've got some great stuff coming out, including just a quick update here. I got a great show that I'll be doing with, it wasn't a show. I went to a meetup in Palo Alto. And it was with Xiaowei Liu, and that video is going to be coming very soon, where he did a great presentation about the history of Bitcoin script and OpCat. And then today we had a great space and went into more of the spiritual stuff, which is really cool. And I'll post a video on that as well in the next few days. But first, on a little aftertaste, I was listening in and, just to give a little perspective here. So you got these two multiple versions of Bitcoin. You got this crypto industry that's all been started from Bitcoin, right? So you got 2009, Bitcoin came out, and then there's all these other cryptocurrencies that have been created. And so right now, one of them is called BSV, and the others, main ones like BTC and Ethereum and these others, right? But BSV is now basically at what I would say an all-time low in morale. A lot of the people who followed Craig Wright in these cases, right? And Craig Wright said he was Satoshi. The court said he's not. They said he was a liar and a fraud. Whoa, it's pretty serious, right? So it's like this all-time, I guess it's an all-time low for a lot of people who are maybe in the industry, okay, in that group. And so I'm bringing this to people's attention because if you go back to my earlier videos, I don't want to go back and link them all in this, but you can watch them. Maybe people watch the trial. I called from the beginning that Craig Wright was going to lose this case at the trial level because he had bad rebuttal evidence to the Madden stuff. We didn't know why. I didn't have why, he forgot his expert witnesses were bad. We just knew they were bad, right? I didn't know what I know now, what I see now. So I kind of talked about that. You go back and I said that. And I said I did believe that he would win an appeal. That was always what my belief. Okay, so I just want to clarify that first of all. So not to say that I'm right, and I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but I'm just saying that's what I said, and I still believe that. And I'm going to tell you why right now. So, all right. So the information I didn't have at that time was Ager-Hansen. Ager-Hansen, what it says here in the judgment itself was he was until late September 23. So just recently. September 23, that's less than a year ago, he was the CEO of nChain. All right, so that was Mr. Ager-Hansen. Now, Mr. Ager-Hansen, although basically one of the paragraphs in the judgment is 64, it talks about how although the details only emerged subsequently, it turned out that the following service of Madden 1, nChain, had arranged for Dr. Wright to undergo a mock trial exercise on the 22nd of September 2023, in which he cross-examined a criminal barrister, Zafar Ari, on primary numbers of his primary relevance documents. A mock judgment apparently given by a judge who had been drafted in to help was delivered the 24th of September 2023, finding Dr. Satoshi claimed to be Satoshi false. The day after the mock trial, Mr. Ager sent Dr. Wright an email, which Mr. Ager-Hansen posted on X, making it clear that Mr. Ager now believed Dr. Wright had forged some documents. So then the mock trial exercise was revealed by Mr. Ager-Hansen, as it had since been admitted by Dr. Wright and Mr. Ali in abiding in different terms. All right, so on September 29, 2023, Mr. Ager-Hansen began a series of X posting in which he claimed he found compelling evidence against Dr. Wright, had manipulated documents with aim to deceive the court that he was Satoshi Nakamoto. This is the court's finding on paragraph 65. So then on Wright 7, which is paragraph 131.7, it says Wright addressed the tweets from Mr. Ager-Hansen about the documents being fake. So he addressed them there. He basically, an objection, it looks like. And then on the 23rd of February, it was at a point to be reverted to blaming Mr. Ager-Hansen for it would seem to be creating files in LaTeX using Oppose. So the court found that on paragraph 153, Dr. Wright blamed Ager-Hansen for this use of this file format Oppose, which apparently, is one of the things that Wright has been accused of, found to have been forged. Okay, so this program. Important point, paragraph 168. I found, so this is where Matthews gets involved, and he says he attempted to explain a message that was saying it was intended to be diverted to Mr. Ager-Hansen, who was threatening to destroy him. I found this to be an odd allegation, so I raised the point at the end of his evidence. See, the balancing of power lay with Mr. Matthews, who in the event was able to fire Mr. Ager-Hansen and have him injuncted. So in my judgment, the plain meaning of Mr. Matthews' WhatsApp's message was evidence that couldn't be considered, etc. Well, that shows right there. Quick disclaimer, I'm a non-lawyer, not an attorney, all right? So don't consider this any legal advice. I'm just reading the freaking thing, all right? And anybody can do the same. They have the... So the court realized that he made a ruling that Mr. Ager-Hansen had been injuncted right here. This is on the final judgment. All right, so it wasn't relevant though. Well, he didn't say it wasn't relevant, but he had notice of the injunction here. Okay, so, or an injuncted. He didn't really talk about it, but there was definitely notice of it as he rules on it. And then there's 410, which talks about where Mr. Ager-Hansen contacted Dr. Wright's wife on the 25th of September, sent her some screenshots saying they were later published on social media. Dr. Wright believed that Mr. Ager-Hansen had obtained these from Wright International Investments laptop by using a policy install attached to software from nChain to push unauthorized changes to Dr. Wright's system. Dr. Wright stated that this was reported to both nChain and the police at that time. Dr. Wright understands that Mr. Ager-Hansen was dismissed by nChain shortly after this incident. So this was a finding of fact here that this actually happened. Dr. Wright realized he was already dismissed by nChain, and that he believed that Mr. Ager-Hansen had obtained these from a laptop. All right, and then you got 411, that 412, where the court says that Dr. Wright asserted certain answers in a cross-examination that there was a conspiracy against him involving COPA and Mr. Ager-Hansen. That was Wright's claim on the stand. Do with Ager-Hansen and merely relying publicly due to his disclosures. I should add that in avoidance of any doubt, that I have not relied or placed any weight on the reported conclusions of either Mr. Ager-Hansen or Mr. Ayer. I have reached my conclusions based upon the evidence and the submissions I received during trial. I've and indicated above below. And I've also had regard to events which occurred during my case management trial. 414. I've talked about this in another video. I'll point this out. I'll link it at the end here. Paragraph 414. This is the findings. Dr. Wright's various allegations that forged documents were planted. At this point, paragraph 414, at this point it is appropriate to draw together the various allegations which Dr. Wright made that various forged documents were planted by Mr. Ager-Hansen or some bad actor. As I understand Dr. Wright's assertions, he makes them on the basis that the documents in questions are forgeries because they were not. He could not continue to rely on them. Support his claim to Satoshi Nakamoto. So the issue is whether the person responsible for the forgeries in question was Dr. Wright or some third person with presumably a grudge against him. I'll address these, in my prior sections, basically building the foundation for this. Second, the Dr. Wright accounts presume that the bad actor, whether Mr. Ager-Hansen or one of his associates, was able to identify these critical reliance documents and alter them, etc. That the bad actor created 71 documents and planted them is highly implausible because Dr. Wright would not have recognized them as his, and then he would not have relied on them. That's what the court found. So as the bad actor had to work out which were the new documents which Dr. Wright himself would identify as new critical reliance documents, which we are told was done on the basis of a set of bespoke search terms and then careful review of the content. So in this hypothesis, the bad actor must have found those documents, identified those that might have actually supported Dr. Wright's claim to be Satoshi, and then set to work on them, carrying a very elaborate set of editing actions to give the impression that those particular documents had been added in mid-September 2023. They would have had working on the drive contained a huge number of documents with no guide to help them because not Dr. Wright's account of September 15th to 20th, he had gone into a BDO drive, let alone examine the contents or tell Mr. Ager-Hansen all about the critical reliance documents. So as COPA points out, there's no evidence of a hack. That's what COPA's saying in the argument. So there's no evidence of any hacking. Counsel points that out. Mr. Ager-Hansen 416. The only point that I need to address from Dr. Wright's submissions quoted in the paragraph 410 above is a submission in COPA that did not challenge, is a submission that COPA didn't challenge Dr. Wright's account of being hacked. Counsel for COPA responded by saying that this was a bad point. I agree. As counsel submitted, COPA did not have a positive basis to saying whether or not Mr. Ager-Hansen did it or didn't do it. But what was put to Dr. Wright repeatedly was that he was responsible for editing and falsifying the BDO materials. Additional documents here, Dr. Wright he asserted that these documents were planted by Mr. Ager-Hansen or someone associated with him. I addressed this, and I'm entirely satisfied that these were forged by Dr. Wright himself. This is off the transcript here in 533. But what I suspect is this is my overleaf, Dr. Wright says. Unfortunately, Mr. Ager-Hansen already demonstrated that he had access to all my things. Q, that's not going to do either because the syntax of your code for the images is identical to the syntax of this ASPOS output, right? Dr. Wright says it's similar in part, yes. Even in Q, every line break in the code is in the same place, every command is in the same order, every line is in the same order. So you use ASPOS, Dr. Wright? Answer, no, I did not. What I had done before this is I said how important this was to Mr. Ager-Hansen and Ali Zafar. Conclusions. I agree that Dr. Wright cannot plausibly blame Ager-Hansen or Ali Zafar or Zafar Ali KC for the text files, so-called the white paper and latex files. That suggestion is fatally contradicted by Dr. Wright's own boasting about his technical artistry, demonstrated in those same self files by Dr. Wright 11. So that's overall what happened, and the court found there's no interference by Ager-Hansen. If there was, it was superseded by any sort of, by the forgeries by Dr. Wright. Okay, so now here's what they found in the Ager-Hansen judgment. I'm just going to do a quick summary on it. All right, this is what it says. It said, this came out slightly. Okay, here's what it says. This is basically was a committal application by nChain against Christian Ager-Hansen for the alleged contempt of court orders. Ager-Hansen was the former CEO of nChain, and he had access to confidential information. After his termination, he published some of this information online. The court proceeded in Ager-Hansen's absence as he did not participate in a meaningful precedent since October 2023 and was now believed to be in Norway. So the court found that Ager-Hansen to be in contempt for not providing an affidavit as ordered by Mr. Hollander KC in October 2023, not delivering devices to nChain solicitors as ordered by Justice Henshaw in January 2024, and not surrendering devices and providing access to those accounts to an expert as ordered by Justice Henshaw. Those court sentenced Ager-Hansen to 10 months imprisonment for 2 breaches and then 4 months of concurrent off the bench. The 10 months service was split into two separate parts. The judge considers the breaches serious due to the confidential nature of the information involved in the deliberate and construing nature of the breaches. That's huge. Way I'm reading that, what that means is you got a judgment now that is not just the injunction. You've got the papers, that's the findings, okay, that Ager-Hansen, his breach was so serious about this information. It says not delivering the nChain documents to solicitor, not surrendering the devices, providing access to those to an expert. So apparently what was happening is that they were trying to get this documents from Ager-Hansen saying, we want this evidence, we want to see what you're up to, get that to an expert. Ager-Hansen wouldn't do it. He wouldn't follow the court's order after he left nChain, and this is going all the way up until January, okay? And then when this court order and judgment actually went down and was officially on the 16th of July, all right? So that was after the Mehl finding there, all right? So this is like, no, I'm sorry, that's the injunction. May 3rd. It's only a few weeks before the freaking COPA judgment came out, all right? After trial, but after the actual judgment, Mehl judgment came out before. So my point is, in summary, yes, I could see why, what Mehl is doing in the judgment here is he's saying, well, it doesn't matter because Ager-Hansen, even if he forged all these documents and he totally ruined the case, Dr. Wright forged these BDO files. That's what he's finding. So it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's what the court's hanging its hat on. So the question is going to come down to an appeal is, does a little bit of fraud from an interference from another party serve it as enough grounds to to overturn the whole case as a mistrial and say something screwed up here or not, or overturn it and find otherwise or not. I mean, so that'll be what the court's going to have to find. And I'm telling you right now, this is going to be a huge issue on appeal. Okay. It's going to be huge because there's this approved judgment, and there's no doubt about it in my mind that this is the main, I believe it's going to be the main grounds for the appeal, for what he's going to argue and how it's all going to go down. We'll see how the divine plan lays out here. But if I had a bet to make, I would bet that it's going to go back either on a mistrial or over on a full overturning of the judgment. And I could see, other sides saying, well, no, even if it goes back and Ager-Hansen was interfering, he wasn't interfering with the BDO files, right? And so it doesn't matter. Craig Wright forged all that stuff. He's a bad actor. Craig Wright needs to pay. He can't be Satoshi Nakamoto. That's a possibility there. So of how that could play out as well. So I'm just laying it down, entertainment purposes only. A little over 15 minutes here. We're at 16. So a couple things, other things to come. Look out for the sCrypt video that I did. It was actually more of a webinar, seminar that Xiaowei Lu did. Some cool things that are going to come out of that. I have some more information I cannot share publicly. Otherwise I would be, that is very, very exciting stuff. And I'm not trying to say there's a bull case for Bitcoin or Ethereum or Bitcoin SV. I'm not saying any of that. So please don't take these videos the wrong way that I'm encouraging price or buying or anything like that. That's not my intention. I'm just here to provide entertainment, and hopefully I can give people the information, because I think it's pretty entertaining with this case. If it's all in this long ass pleadings, right? But it's I think it's entertaining in the way of like a comedy theater. We get to watch the trial when he's up there and he's doing all of his techno babble, and it's just entertaining to me. I think it's cool seeing those guys. Wish I could have been there, but I really appreciate all the commentary that people gave. 3SV69 BSV doing his freaking transcripts, any of the stuff I missed, he was able to transcribe it in there. So, but yeah, this is my full breakdown on the Ager-Hansen side of this judgment and the potential effects, and then the second approved. The actual injunction approved by the court, the same court, May 3rd. That's the approved judgment, finding Ager-Hansen in contempt. Okay, in contempt for failing to produce those documents, not delivering them up to nChain solicitors, and not allowing them to get to an expert as ordered by the judge. Should get that stuff to the expert so we can evaluate it. Ager-Hansen didn't do it. He was sentenced to 10 months in prison for these 2 breaches and 4 months of concurrent of the breach. So stay tuned. August 5th, I'll be looking forward to seeing it. Probably just a notice of appeal, and then it's going to do some memorandum and briefing after that. It's going to take a long time for all that to play out. So I just want to give my little interpretation, have some fun. If any ideas, leave a comment. Be sure to hit the like button, dude. Thumbs up. Share the video. Hit the notifications bells. And man, I just talk openly about a lot of things that are a lot of ideas. People I met yesterday were very inspiring. Some of the guys met from China, talking about, anyways, just ideas about doing a new app where I could put like my voice on it and it would go into China. So that's all I got. Subscribe. I'll see you at the top.